Welcome to the Feel Better, Be Better show. Today, Kate and Nevada will answer your questions and introduce new topics designed to help feel better and be better. These are raw conversations, but they will make a difference.
All right, so let's see here. We talked a little bit about building a community today.
Yep, part one.
Part one? Part one was building a community?
Part one, building a community.
Okay, cool. So then later on we'll have parts 5, 6, and 7?
Nope.
Okay. Just part 2?
Just part 2.
Until we decide to do part 3?
We just like to do part 1s and 2s.
Okay, there we go. All right. So enjoy the intro part, the introduction, the setting of the table of community development. All right. So let's see here. Okay, so we're kind of talking the other day about all the stuff we're doing and trying to kind of almost create a community. It's a weird feeling, you know what I mean, where you're trying to like, ask people to come help out with you, especially when you're dealing with independent type people that have kind of been running like crazy. I mean, you've been kind of organizing a lot of that stuff. So, I mean, I'm kind of asking you, like, what do you feel about it? What kind of pitfalls are you falling into on that?
Well, I think first and foremost, the hardest thing is that it gets really frustrating when you're trying to organize this type of stuff because, you know, someone could argue, well, if you charged less or you didn't charge anything or if you did it these certain days, like more people would show up. But I mean, we've tried things in the past for free. We've tried things for low amount of money. We've tried things for high amount of money. We've tried things on weekends or weekdays or evenings, and it doesn't matter. Participation is about the same. It doesn't matter how cool of a setup you do or how basic. Participation is about the same. And so I think it's really easy to get frustrating, but you sent a podcast my way, and they were talking about lack of community, specifically since COVID and the pandemic hit, and just the fact like the numbers and all that have gone down so much, and we're seeing such a spike in loneliness and depression and all kinds of things from lack of community that it makes you almost feel a little better that the stuff you have isn't going because it's not just you.
Yeah.
Because I think some of the stuff we do would be really awesome if people would like try it. They probably would like it and maybe want to put it into the routine, you'd probably get a couple people from it. But I feel like we're just sitting in a situation that the way society's set up right now and how easy it is to stay home and do most things from home and get what feels like enough at home, even though you're missing that community, people just are not joining anything anymore.
Yeah.
So how do you find the right people to kind of bring that back? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
Well, I mean, most of our lives, the progression of, you know, civilization is to try to make things easier on us, you know, and we've kind of gotten to a really interesting pinnacle right now where, I mean, you can have your groceries delivered, you can have your laundry done, you can have, you know, prepared meals sent to you, you can work from home. I mean, you could pretty much lounge around your house all the entire year and not actually leave the house or have to engage with anybody.
Yeah, there's no reason to leave.
Yeah, so it's kind of one of those interesting things where you're seeing other things that are really hard that are starting to gain some, you know, some attention. You know, like people that are wanting to do like the extreme run, what am I thinking of? Where they run in the mud and they do all the obstacle races and stuff like that. You're seeing more and more people do like the Ironmans and marathons and stuff like that.
CrossFit
And CrossFit
has become huge right now because of that. People are buying into that community and that, but it's such a interesting dynamic because you're not seeing that in a lot of other places that people could make community.
Sure.
But people who are CrossFitters are like obsessed with it, and a lot of it's the community aspect of it.
It's a huge part. And what I'm trying to get though is that you're seeing this dive into these things that are uncomfortable that everybody like oogles over. You know, like, oh wow, that's really awesome. You know, what'd you do in your CrossFit scenario or whatever. We're kind of forgetting about some of the other uncomfortable things that we kind of used to do through the day. You know, going to work on time every day. You know, dealing with difficult coworkers. You know, having to go into conversations that you don't want to talk about. You know, trying to deal with people that, you know, annoy you and everything like that. And the more we get away from that, the more it's easier at home. I like being at home less. I don't have to deal with these kind of things. You know, it's like, yeah, but you're also missing out on some of that things that allows you to be able to be a part of a community.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with that too, your annoying coworkers, usually when you're forced to do,
we should stress that this is other jobs, considering we don't have enough coworkers.
I feel this way all the time with you.
I'm sure you do.
You make us do team lunches, just us, and
I know. Yeah, walks.
Yeah,
You know.
all
Yeah.
the time. It's horrible. It's horrible.
Brainstorming situations. Like, hey, we need to talk about this. Yeah, I'm awful.
Yeah, horrible. But no, I mean, I think of jobs where my managers have been really good about like, okay, we're going to do a team lunch once a month, or if you got a couple coworkers who are like, hey, let's go out for drinks after work. I mean, I was never really good at participating in that type of stuff. We could talk about the pitfalls of the fact I'm a horrible friend later.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you kind of learn to find even the people who annoy you, or maybe you don't have that much in common with, you find some type of common ground or something you can talk about and communicate with. And I don't know, they feel like more of a person. So when they're frustrating, it's not just that they're annoying to be annoying.
You feel a little bit like karma coming back at you on this one, since you didn't do the team of activities and now they're not doing them for you.
I mean, no, I just am like, oh, those were valuable. Good thing I work at a place with lots of people now.
Yeah.
I
think the one thing that always bothered me about whenever somebody came and said we're doing like team function or it's a company project or something like that, as soon as they say it, you're like,
Yeah, but there's times where it's fun. Like I remember I worked in research, and every year we'd do a winter party where they just cater dinner and they'd have the doctors and the staff below and everybody. And I mean, yeah, I was kind of divided still, and it wasn't like super fun, but I mean, you got to kind of see your coworkers in a different light, and you can come when you want to and leave when you want to. And
mm-hmm.
I mean, those were always kind of fun. It wasn't like the team building, let's do all these weird icebreaker things, because those are stupid and I hate those so much. And yeah, that's always where we kind of go to. But yeah, I think being out of those settings where you do that all the time really makes me feel like I look at the value of it more.
Yeah, I think the problem we get into is it's almost like a competition thing, like constantly like, oh, well, we had really good participation on this.
Mm-hmm.
And like we talked about, I mean, sometimes it's just, you have no idea that this group had this whole thing that they were doing over here that you didn't know about and you planned it and it didn't work out. It had nothing to do with what you did. And there was no rhyme or reason. It wasn't that it was a good day to do things or a good night to do things. It was just, they had a special event on that time frame. They knocked a lot of people out. But what I'm trying to get at on the company function is it always seems like it's like this measuring stick of like, well, people really stayed in there a long time. Or I really heard a lot of people that liked it. When how many more times should it just be like, I should just invite some people out to do this. And then you'll get the whole thing where it's like, well, maybe they see it as like favoritism or something like that. But your whole point is just like, well, make sure you just invite everybody. But as you can get more people, as you get more interaction and more people having group things together, then more and more people will feel like they almost kind of have to go.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where you build your culture, your community, your what's the right word? Participation.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. And it's looking at it too. I mean, we talked a little bit about relationships recently, and I mean, people have, you know, their boyfriend or their spouse or girlfriend or whoever, and you have your family, and for some people that's really close and some people that's not. But there's a lot of other places like friend groups, coworker groups, stuff like that people are really struggling to have those connections and stuff with. But I mean, everything out there shows those are very important connections still too. So like, if you're not doing things, how do you build that? I mean, I would like to think that like I do some stuff better than other people as far as staying home. I would prefer to stay home. I have a really hard time making friends. I don't feel close to a lot of people, and I don't like to put myself in situations where it's like, okay, it's going to be really close, just you and me, we're going to go to dinner or something like that. I don't like that. It's uncomfortable. I don't want to be in that situation. I don't want to have to share extra things because it feels weird and doesn't feel like people care, and that's hard.
No.
Friends are stupid. No.
Yeah. The heck with friends. No. It's difficult. I mean, especially as you get older. I mean, when you're younger, it's hilarious. We don't think of it that much when we're younger, but it's so much vicinity.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people
kind of thrown in with people?
Well, how many people were your best friends? Well, they were in your class, the same class for 3 years in a row. So it's not even like, did you actually pick them, or was it just a convenience factor? I mean, honestly, it probably looks like it was a lot more of a convenience factor.
Well, that's usually how you find people you like, is just being around them a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, sports too. I mean, I wasn't necessarily super close with a lot of people I played sports with growing up till I got to college, but then I was pretty close to people then. But I mean, you're at practice every day with those people. You're at games every day with those people. There's going to be people that rub you the wrong way.
You're doing team activities.
Yes, you're around those people a lot.
Well, I think there's a good take from that, though, and that is, as you know, you were talking about making friends and everything like that, is how many people really are somebody you can be a friend with if the right situation comes up. I get it. There's some people that will never, ever get along. It just won't happen. But ultimately, it was probably a lot less people than more people. I mean, I think for the most part, all of us kind of get along. 90 to 95% of the people we run into, it's just, do we have that situation that presents that? So when you are in a situation where you don't know somebody well and you are out to dinner with them in an intimate setting and stuff like that, you just haven't had enough time for that to feel comfortable.
Maybe.
For the most part.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe you're just awkward. It's never going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you can make awkward work. I'm sure you have a few friends that were awkward.
See, here's the thing. If you're awkward and quiet, you have to find someone who can talk to a rock and carry the entire conversation, and then you're good. Like, that's why my cousin and I get along. She talks the whole time, and I insert stuff in. And she asks me questions, and I answer back. Instant friendship.
Okay.
So you just have to find someone really extroverted if you're super introverted.
Okay. I mean, I'm sorry. To me, in my opinion, when you do get introverts actually talking, they aren't very introverted. They just don't have a very good, they just have a very high trust threshold. Once you kind of get to the point where you can kind of feed into them actually opening up themselves, they tend to basically talk just about as much as anybody else does. There's just certain people that just have like 100% trust thresholds. Like, hey, I just met you. Hey, let me tell you my life story. And you're just like, too much. But then you have other people that won't tell you anything. You know them for years, and you just can't ever get the actual stuff out of them. They're just so guarded or protected. And that's just the difference between people. But I come back to the fact that most of the people I've ever ran into is once I could find a common ground, once I could find something to relate to, we could usually be friends. So, I mean, anybody I ran into new, it's just a matter of finding that common ground. And I can even say that to people that I don't like. And there's plenty of people in my life that I didn't like for a couple of years just because of, I don't know, the situation was bad, put us at opposite ends of some or whatever. And then when we got out of that, we were able to actually be friends, afterwards, because it's just interesting that it's just sometimes the scenarios do that. And how much do we let that affect us when we're talking with that person?
Yeah. So I think the interesting conversation to look back to is like, how do you build that type of community if you're not already in it? I mean, it's easy when, like, for example, we play slow pitch. We have people really like on our teams and certain slow pitch teams. And so, yeah, you get to see them once a week. And so that's great. But, like, in the off season, those couple months when you're not playing, you don't see them and you kind of lose that connection. And everybody's kind of, like, ready to go when spring hits again. But, like, how do you build a setting where people are willing to come and hang out or do something, even if it's just a casual come and go thing? Like, I don't know.
Well, I really am not trying to, like, super brag about how we do things, but I would be willing to guess that a lot of people would probably ask us that, because I mean, ultimately our team that we've done for Friday nights, we got quite a few people that just will be there.
Yeah.
We're still short a few players, so we're still having a hard time filling the full team, but the people that are there don't really want to play for anybody else. I mean, they want to be there hanging out with us. And we did do stuff on that when we brought dinner sometimes. We do group connections. We've hung out outside. We hang out in between games. We know each other. We're kind of friends. So, I mean, there's a lot of connections there that we've done with a lot of those people. Then you flip over and you go even to our youth teams that we've done, which, let's face it, we went from having one team that we took from rec to competitive. How many kids are still on that from that time? 2, 3?
2 or 3.
Yeah, 2 or 3. But now you have 5 teams?
Yeah.
Now we have 5 teams that we're running. We got parents and kids asking us to take on other people because they're recommending us. We're getting people that are calling us from other coaches that are recommending us. And I mean, they could be wanting to, pawn their problem off to somebody else, but that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to get at, though, is that we then started doing some group activities, some individual stuff. I mean, we popped up just doing pitching and catching on a couple nights of the week. We're not exactly the type of people that should be teaching pitching. So we're not really teaching. We're just kind of like go out there and work.
Yeah, facilitate that connection between pitcher and catcher.
Pretty much.
Just have a chance to work on stuff.
Just
and like we said, we have a couple that have never really pitched before that are working on some stuff, but we have quite a few that have. And we don't really correct them a lot. We let them work through their problems so they can figure out how to do that.
Well, I'm not back here. I'm usually we don't have no catchers typically,
yeah.
So I'm usually catching. But my guess is that some of the ones that kind of know stuff will start telling some of the ones that don't know stuff things to do.
Yeah, but you can see the ones that do know when they get frustrated when something goes wrong, and then they kind of tweak things, and when they get it, like, okay, cool. And hopefully that ends up spilling over to their catcher starting to realize when things go off, like, how do I talk to my pitcher to help her get back to that place where she's feeling good? What does she need to hear? What is she doing that maybe she can't see? Like, what can I help her with?
Yeah, but where I'm going to come back is we started doing the hitting hours.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is the second winter. So, I mean, you're talking like a little over a year.
Yeah.
And we went from having one or two maybe show up
6 at most.
to, I mean, the other night we had what, 13, 12?
Yeah.
12 of them in here. So, I mean, you're building a community there. So, I mean, I know you're talking about how do you do it, but you're kind of doing it. There would be a lot of people that wouldn't have near as much success. Now, at the same time, we've tried other things that have gone nowhere.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like we're like, you know, oh yeah, you just do this and then you do that and everything works out great.
Like
we're doing a little more
night,
like here.
Friday night would be so cool if anybody would try it.
On their defense, some tried it. They didn't come back.
Well,
so obviously
like
you missed something.
It's like one or two. It's harder when it's one or two
Yeah.
than when if you had like 6 of them out here and they're kind of like competing against each other and having fun. It would probably be a whole different dynamic.
Yeah.
I would imagine if you had the right core group. I think
You need some people that are coming back on a regular basis.
Yeah. But I was going to say real quick before we get too far, what's interesting though is not only are we having people get it recommended for our younger team, but there's like a few people who've kind of like latched on to our adult team, our slow pitch team. There's like 3 or 4 people who've been like, hey, if you have an opening, like I want to play, and then they don't go anywhere. Like they're not who we started with.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of built that core, and then they're like, no, you guys are chill and have fun and you're a good team, but you're not like out here thinking you're better than everybody else, and you're just out here to have a good time and be with each other. And a couple of them like come from other teams where it's very different dynamic for them. So surprisingly, they're kind of like, no, this is different and I like it. Like I want to stay there. It just makes you kind of feel good about what you're kind of putting together. And like poor Chris, bless his heart, I didn't even realize he thought he was still on the team. I was like, well, you're kind of a sub, so
I actually was kind of. I didn't say it to Eric because I didn't talk to you about it. But I was like, man, if he wants to be on the team, I'm sure like me and Drew will let him sub in or or play most of the time.
Like I was like, if that's the case, we can probably figure something out.
I mean, it might be hard. We would have a hard time around 6-6, but I think we would be able to.
Well,
with Aaron's already gone. I mean, me and Drew are going to miss. I mean, there's going to be
during the summer when we have games, it's perfect to have him
exactly
as backup. So I have no problem with that. It was just hilarious because it's one of those like you're told you're a sub and you really like the team, and then you're like, oh, I'm ready to play this season. You're like, you're technically.
Well, we did bring him in last season because of Drew's injury.
I know, but it was very much Drew's injury.
Well, he was supposed to go out of town. Anyway, but I'm just saying that there are probably a lot of people that would look at building a community that might actually kind of hit you or me up for the communities we are building.
True.
And I'm not trying to, but I mean, we both know it's been a struggle. We plan it. We talk about it. We say what's working, what's not working, what's coming back and forth, trying to get that. What can we do? What can we do different?
Well, it's a frustrating grind, and it's frustrating when, when we did our team function at the beginning of January here, it felt like nobody was going to show up. It felt like nobody cared, and then at the last minute, like everybody came together and it came through, and you're just like, can I pull my hair out anymore, trying to figure out if this is even going to fly or not? And I mean, it just. Even though you kind of successfully get there, it's slow, it's a grind, and not everything's going to work all the time. And it's hard to gauge what people are into and what people want to do, and what they're okay spending, what time frame they're okay giving you as far as like how much time am I going to allot you, how often should we do it? I don't know. Like that's still something that kind of ebbs and flows, and I don't know that any of us get it right all the time. But just if you're out there trying to do it, I mean, even though we've been successful in a couple areas, it's tough.
Thank you for watching Kate and Nevada. Hope you've enjoyed this show and found it useful and empowering. If you have any questions or comments, please contact them at Kinetics.com. That's KNETICX.com. They're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as well. And please write a review of the show. Kate and Nevada appreciate hearing the feedback, and they welcome your reviews, and your word of mouth will help others learn how to feel better and be better.